I'd like to begin by thanking the growers for their ongoing support of our breeding program through the Georgia Peanut Commission and also through the National Peanut Board. I'm just going to briefly talk about some of the things that have come out of our program, some of the things that are in the pipeline, and I'll begin with the beginning, which was basically TifGuard. It was released a decade ago. Seed is still available. It's a nematode-resistant runner-type variety with excellent resistance to tomato spotted wilt virus. Most recent one that's available is this Tifn V IOL. It's similar to TifGuard, nematode resistance, TSWV resistance, but it's high oleic. So if you want a runner type with that disease resistance package and you want normal oleic, TifGuard is actually the only one that's normal oleic, and this one's high oleic. I'm not going to show any data on those. We've talked about those for a few years now, but picture's worth 1,000 words. This is a picture, I believe this is TifGuard in one of Tim Brenneman's fields that's heavily infested with the peanut root knot nematode. It's surrounded by genotypes that are susceptible. There was no nematicide put out in this field, and so you can see the level of resistance that you get in these nematode-resistant varieties. I certainly would not, I would recommend that you do not use nematicides if you use one of these varieties. A couple of things that are coming. There is no seed available for these next two that I'm going to talk about, but I wanted to let you know about them. They are in the Georgia Peanut variety trial, so you can check out the results from this past year. They'll be in there again next year, so you can see how they're performing, and hopefully in the near future seed will be available and you can make a decision on whether you want to try one of these. 13-3532, it's a Virginia type with nematode resistance, and it really traces back to some of the early growers of TifGuard would ask me, do you have any Virginia types with nematode resistance, because they had some Virginia contracts, and I said, well, no, we don't. We don't really breed for Virginias, but we can make a few crosses and see what comes out of it. And so this is what has come out of it. It's, I think, a very good Virginia type variety with nematode resistance and TSWV resistance. It has high oleic. Like I said, it did very well in the Georgia variety trials last year. It's also been in the UPP trials, which is a test that's conducted throughout the country a couple of years ago, and it did very well throughout the country. So it's something that you might want to consider as seed become available. Right now we have a ½ acre of this in Puerto Rico at the Winter Nursery. So we'll harvest that early in the spring and turn all that over to Georgia Foundation Seeds, and they'll have a good supply of seed to begin production for registered and certified. This next one is breeding is an ongoing process, so I consider this just an improvement of Tifn V IOL. There is no seed available right now. We'll be turning over just a limited amount of seed to Foundation Seed after the end of this summer. But I wanted to let you know it's coming. It was in the Georgia variety trial, so you can see how it did. It did, I think, very well. It has, I can't say statistically higher, but it has numerically higher yield than Tifn V, and it has statistically higher grades. So I think it is a breeding improvement over Tifn V, and seed of that will be available in the next few years. So now I want to move on to what I think really excited. I'm excited about that, but this is what we're most excited about in our breeding program. And I think I want to start by giving a shout out to the Peanut Genomics Initiative. I think I've talked about that here with this group for the last couple of years. I'm convinced that the investment that the peanut industry made in that Peanut Genomics Initiative is going to have huge benefits to the U.S. peanut industry. It's having huge impacts on our breeding program. And by our, I mean, I'm a conventional breeder. I work very closely with Dr. Peggy Zaysakin's group. They do kind of the molecular side of the research. My team does the more conventional field side of the research. And we've teamed up to really attack this project and several other projects, because this is the one I'm going to talk about today. And it's an accelerated bat crossbreeding program using marker-assisted selection to develop cultivars with resistance to late leaf spot. So this traces back to some cooperative research that I had with a Brazilian peanut breeder, and he shared this breeding line with me, and it has excellent resistance to leaf spot. And it comes from 3 introgressions from a wild peanut species, 2 on chromosome A02 and 1 on chromosome A03. Because of the Peanut Genomics Initiative, we have flanking markers for all 3 of those introgressions. So in the last couple of years, a graduate student looked at all those combinations of introgressions, the single integrations, A02 top, A02 bottom, A03 bottom, all pairwise combinations, and the combination with all segments in comparison to no segments. Once again, a picture's worth 1,000 words. This is actually some material that came from cross of Tiffin V by that Brazilian line. The Brazilian line has excellent resistance to leaf spot, but it's not adapted to the U.S. Poor agronomic characteristics. So these are some F2, these are selected in the F2, and these are some plots of the parents, Tiffin V IOL, the Brazilian line. This is one of the segregants with none of the introgressions. One of the segregants with A02 top and A03 bottom, and one of the segregants with all 3 segments. And so you can see these 3 have much higher resistance than these 2. Now, Tiffin V has a moderate level, like Dr. Tillman just talked about, but these really, that takes the resistance up to a whole other level. So the conclusion from the graduate student, actually, I won't go into all that data, but he showed that the major genes for resistance are on the introgression from the bottom of A03 and the top of A02. And the 3rd introgression on the bottom of A02 did not add significantly to the resistance. So as a breeder, you really don't need to worry about that 3rd introgression. So now we're embarking on this accelerated bat crossbreeding program. And I pulled this off the internet, and I think this really is a nice way to illustrate what bat crossbreeding is all about. So AOC 322 is the donor parent for leaf spot resistance. For this example, we're going to say Tiffin V is the recurrent parent. So we cross the donor parent, the bluish with the tip guard, the reddish, and you know the first cross is 50-50. 50% of the genes from one parent, 50% of the genes from the other. We make a selection and immediately back cross it to the recurrent parent, the Tiffin V. So now we've got 75% as the recurrent parent, only 25% as the donor parent, which is not as good agronomically. Using these genomic tools, we immediately select the one we want to use, go get pollen from that plant, and immediately back cross it onto the recurrent parent. So now we're at 87.5% Tiffin V, and just a little bit from that donor parent, which is not as good agronomically. We've made the 3rd back cross, and now we're almost up to 95% Tiffin V with just the introgression of those leaf spot resistant genes. So this is a high probability of success. It's a breeding program that has a high probability of success, and we can really only do it because of the new genomic technologies. Just a couple of pictures to wrap up. Results from back cross 1 material. We're pushing this as fast as we can. Last winter in the greenhouse, we had these plants. We harvested winter before last, we had these plants. We harvested a few seed and put them out in the field in 2018. We made 12 selections and sent it to Puerto Rico to get enough seed to do replicated field studies this past summer. So here's a picture of those replicated studies. And you can see here the typical susceptible hypogea genotypes in comparison to our back cross 1 selections. A close-up, very high level of resistance in this back cross 1 material. Also pretty good yield and grade. Of course, we're going to test that again this year. We also are moving on to the back cross 2. And last summer, we selected 26 back cross 2 selections, and that's currently in the Puerto Rican Winter Nursery, and we're going to have replicated field studies with that this coming year. We're pushing that as fast as we can. We're also kind of on a parallel track. We're doing seed increase, so as soon as we have the data to support a cultivar release, hopefully we'll also have several hundred pounds of seed that we can turn over to the foundation seed people. So hopefully that'll shave a couple of years off the time that it'll take it to get into your hands. So I'll be around the rest of the day, so if you want to talk about this some more, I'd be happy to talk some more with you about it.